There it is. It's up. Okay, awesome. All right. I got a tweet out and everything, so we'll see if people join.
Okay. You ready to start?
Let's do it.
Okay. "2021 is over."
Well,
kind of.
Almost.
Close enough. This is Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Network, your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and available on all platforms. Hope you guys are having a safe and happy start to 2022. I'll let you know
we've got some Serbians in the chat, which I'm going to cut you off in this intro because we got some Serbians in the chat, even though they are minutes away from New Year's themselves.
I know, it's dedication. I can't believe you guys are choosing to spend it with us. We are grateful, and we will try and give you something entertaining to usher in the New Year's over in Serbia. Today's episode is brought to you by Truebill. Truebill is a new app that saves you money by helping you identify and stop paying for the subscriptions you don't want or need, and can even negotiate better deals on those you want to keep. Check it out at Truebill. Mailbag. We're doing a mailbag. We got some questions. We got some comments. We got folks in here streaming live. Going to be answering some questions about where the Nuggets are at now, where the Nuggets are going to be at the end of 2022, all those types of things. I do start first and foremost by hoping that everybody in the Boulder area is as they can be, that they're doing okay. Please let us know if you are in need of anything. If you're one of the people impacted by the fires, let us know. Absolutely horrific down in Boulder. I live close to Bertha, and they can see it from there. Just absolutely terrifying stuff.
I could see it real good from my house. I posted a picture last night. Like I honestly thought it was like less than a mile away. That's how big the flame was. It was actually like 3 miles away from me, so it wasn't even that close. But it looked like that's how big the fire was. It looked like it was almost right on top of me. That's so crazy.
If you are affected, please reach out. Let us know. See how we can help you, get you the resources that you need. After that.
Also, quick, just heads up, DNVR, we're doing a fundraiser right now. I think we've already, in like 1 hour, have raised over $20,000. So we're doing a fundraiser right now through one of the official like Boulder fundraiser one. This isn't like some janky thing. So you buy a T-shirt right now, 100% of proceeds go to that fund.
Awesome. I will be getting on that as soon as we get off of this call. Okay. We have in the chat, we've got France, Slovenia is here along with Serbia.
Yep.
Jeff
Morton in the chat. So also USA. We've also got the USA represented.
Yeah. Jeff Morton says rest in peace to Betty White because Jeff's old.
Of course, that was Jeff.
So he's just, this is hitting him hard because he was close to Betty in age.
Wow.
Okay. So where do you want to start? We have some questions. Why don't we go with some of the questions that we got on Twitter? You want to start there?
Yeah, we're gonna do some mailbag here, and we'll start up. Gosh dang it! I have to go refine. I just had it up, and then I closed it. I got it up again. All right, from Miroslav Chuk meaning little owl. Do you expect the Nuggets to attach a second rounder to Bol to trade him for nothing in order to clear his roster space? Do you think it is probable for them to waive one of their two-way guys to get a guy with a bigger rotation potential? So kind of two questions here, somewhat on the same topic here. Waive one of the two-way guys, get rid of Bol for nothing. What do you think here?
I don't know what Bol is making that would require it to be for them to attach a pick. Why not just waive him? Just take the hit and waive him, right?
I don't know which way you go. I mean, it's funny you say that, but he is making enough money that they'd have to pay that out. I mean, he's making $2.1 million. So even if you traded him now, you're less than halfway through. That's $1 million, over $1 million. I have no idea, Matt. I understand what people say, like, what do you care about the Kroenkes? Like, I don't care. The Kroenkes could go bankrupt for all I care. I really don't care. but I just try to exist in what is reality. And $1 million, yes, they have so much that doesn't mean much to them, but you don't often see owners pay, $1 million just to open up a roster spot for a guy that might not even be an impact player. So that's why I say, I don't know. The Bowl question is tough for Denver.
2.16 remaining. I believe it's guaranteed. It's
remaining, but it's prorated, right? Like some of this has already been paid.
Yeah. So, and especially if you wait until after the deadline, you've only got 30 games left. You're looking at like 35% of that. That might be a little bit more affordable for them. Look, they might attach a pick, but I think it's more likely that they're just like, they let him go for, you can probably do a trade where if you offer a bowl, like I'll say this, Bull's value isn't so low that if you offer a bowl for, hey, if you give.
Oh no, Matt's in Arkansas and his internet might have just died. It might have gone down with the ship. I don't know where he was going with that, other than just to say Bull might not have. Let me see. I'm going to take him off here. See if he comes back to us. I don't know what you attach to him that makes it worthwhile. Up there you are over there. This is going to happen the entire time, isn't it?
Yes. Look, I'm not. I can't do anything about Arkansas. I've been trying my whole life to do something about Arkansas. I can't do anything about the state of Arkansas.
This editing is going to be a real nightmare. You should open up, if you can, open up Audition and just record locally. That way we have at least those hard files. Otherwise, this is behind the scenes stuff. But whenever somebody cuts out like this, you have to piece together a million different little like parts to it, and it is a nightmare. So I'm going to record mine as well, and we'll just go like that. Are you back?
Hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, that's cool. At least I'm coming back a little bit. I came back and was not there. I do Zamora came saying, "Damn, ass internet." That's absolutely correct. I am on the hot ass internet right now.
Yeah, ass internet is so true. We're doing it live. That's right, Carlos. We'll do it live.
So for you, I do want to ask you though. My point what I was trying to get to was it's going to be prorated, right? After the trade deadline, I think if they offer a bowl, just say, "Hey, give us a conditional second rounder that'll never convey."
Oh my gosh, this is going to be a nightmare. Yeah, that is one of the options, is just to be able to say, hey, give a top 55 protected second round pick, which basically would not convey, or if it does, it's like the end of the second round, so it doesn't really matter anyway. It's very rare that teams are
like he's worth
picking at like 59 are fighting over the same guy. So if you trade that, it's kind of like the same. It's not that big of a deal. So maybe that's what Denver does. I've said this for a while. I don't know what the point is of trading for Bull right now. If you're another team, like maybe it's just if you're a tanking team like a Houston, you trade for him. Matt texts, "You want to go solo?" Sure, okay. I'll handle today solo. So this is so I don't know. The only situation somebody would want a Bull, in my opinion, is if they were like, okay, he's going to. We're going to get a 2-month look at him or 6-week look at him. Maybe even if you trade him now, a 3-month look at him before next year, so we could decide if we want to offer him another contract and bring him back. But no team is going to trade for him to be a part of their long-term deal because he's an unrestricted free agent here in a couple months. So that's what makes him, in my opinion, a little bit difficult. And the fact that Denver has not played him at all to this point, it just makes it tough in that way. Yeah, Matt Moore, it looks like he just checked out. Get him on the phone like you did with old-timey broadcasts. That could be pretty funny. So I don't know. The Bull situation, to me, that's probably how it's going to go. And then about waiving a two-way player, I mean, that's another possibility. That's another possibility I've seen put out there. I believe our friend Bronco Squatch has explained it as thus. There are a couple guys, 2 guys in particular. I know Aaron Gordon was one. I don't remember who the other one was it might have been Will Barton, who had incentives built into their contract. And in doing the two-way deal, instead of buying a guy out, Denver's so close to that salary cap or luxury tax line that they could end up triggering some of these bonuses. So maybe Denver would rather buy out that $2 million contract, because then you have a $2 million cushion or more. And I think that might be the way Denver tries to go. So my thought on all of this is that I expect Bull to be bought out or not on the Nuggets roster one way or another. The one ripple effect I haven't heard anybody talk about that I'm curious about, I don't know the answer to this, but I'm curious about it. Does it reflect poorly on Tim Conley? Because he gave him this deal. And if you remember, this is a classic Tim Conley, pay the guy before you have to, as like a show of good faith. They pay Bol. I don't know if he had earned it or not. I'm guessing he had if they were going to give him this money. They pay him, but then immediately he just stops playing. He's not, it seems like there was some kind of frustration. So it's one of those examples of like, hey, let's show good faith early because that way you'll return it. And then this one appears to have either not been returned, Bol not panning out or what have you. So I wonder if this is when you go to Stan Kroenke and you say, hey, we need you to pay $1 million for Bol to go away. And he says, well, you just told me a year and a half ago to pay $2 million a year because it's going to help him be the best player of himself. I wonder if that creates a little bit of a tension. I don't know, but the Bol situation, certainly a bummer. Zamora says, Happy New Year, guys. Hope you're both safe after the fire yesterday. Thank you very much. Anyway, is it a foregone conclusion that Bol would be cut in order to retain Reed? Could we cut Cornely? This is the same question. So a lot of people wondering that route. Look, it is possible. Denver's going to explore all of their options. And some of those incentive triggers, I don't know what Denver makes of this year. I honestly don't know. I was listening to the Zach Lowe podcast earlier today, and he was talking about like, what is Denver trying to do right now? Are they trying to like not waste a year of Jokic's prime? Or are they basically just in hold pattern? Like, we're not going to make any major decisions. I don't know. And I don't even know what the right answer is. Part of me thinks you never punt away. You have the best player in the world, Nikola Jokic. You never punt away a season when you have a guy like that, especially when they're in their prime. So part of me says like, hey, don't treat this like a wasted year. Another part of me says Denver has a great roster, and I do think that window is still open in next year and years to come, whatever. Certainly next year, which is about as far as you can look ahead. They're going to have Michael Porter, Aaron Gordon, Will Barton, Monte Morris, Jamal Murray. All of those guys are going to be there. That's a pretty good roster. So maybe don't do anything now that might compromise you down the road. That's another perspective to have. So I don't know. Maybe that how they view that circumstance will determine whether or not they try to keep a Bol or not. I really don't know. And also maybe they want to extend this all the way to the trade deadline because they want to determine that. You make a move right now and then you get another major injury, then you feel dumb because you're like, well, we just paid $1.5 million for Bol to go away. And then Aaron Gordon went down. Now this team has no chance. So maybe they just try to buy this all the way to the trade deadline. Then that's when they make the decision. Okay, we feel we're good enough. We're going to be a 5 seed. Let's make the trade now and go from there. I could see that happening. Flo asks, hi, classic end of year question. Your biggest surprises in a good and bad non-health related way thus far in the Nuggets season. Happy New Year's Eve. I love this question. This was actually going to be, I'm going to spend a lot of time on this question, Flo. Biggest surprises. If I go to positive surprises so far, and it's funny when you go to 2021, you're going back the entire year. You're not just going back to like, there's a recency bias to this where you're thinking just this season, but 2021, a whole calendar year. So I would go back and say, number one was Aaron Gordon. When he was an option before the trade happened, we talked about Aaron Gordon. What would he bring to the Nuggets roster? And I thought he's a good player. He's good. Don't know if he's a perfect fit. He might be selfish, might be this, is his defense, does it live up to the hype, what have you? I was very speculative about it. He was so good when he arrived, even after Jamal Murray went back. You look at the Nuggets roster, even with him, without Jamal Murray, it was incredible. He has been such a perfect fit. I believe this, and I'm wholehearted about this. I think he is a better fit than Jeremy Grant was with this Nuggets roster. I would go as far as to say he's a near perfect fit when you talk about the role Denver has. Jokic is your system. Jamal Murray is your number 2. So fill it in around it. To me, he's a near perfect number 3. And I know people say Michael Porter's number 3, this or that. Doesn't matter. I think eventually you get to a point where he's in that role and he does it so well. So to me, I liked Aaron Gordon. I thought he was worth, at the time, I'm like, he's worth gambling on. Maybe he's your guy, whatever. 1 year left. It's always tough. You might have to sign him for a lot of money, which Denver did. But I think it's worked out A++. It's been such a great addition to this team. And the fact that Denver has him under contract for so long, to me, it's by far the best thing. Number 2 would be Austin Rivers. If I was saying like biggest surprises, look, Austin Rivers was only brought here out of necessity. He was a 10-day contract. He was basically Davon Reed last year. So my expectations with him were very, very, very low. Austin Rivers is, outside of Nikola Jokic, maybe the next biggest reason that the Nuggets advanced past the Portland Trailblazers last year. I mean, Jokic was incredible. You got good performances from guys, but only one game was there a guy that you could say, if it weren't for that performance in that specific game, Denver doesn't win the game. He brought it, and he was great. Comes in this year, had a little bit of a rough start, got COVID. I think since then you look at it and I go, Austin Rivers to me is one of the 10 best players on this roster. Even when everybody comes back, I'd have to go through the numbers because he's right on the line. But he's a guy that I feel fine. Like, I don't love his minutes with Jokic, but I think he's he's a really good defender. He does some things that are very interesting. And for a guy that was basically just a break in case of emergency option, he's more than outperformed that. And I think that's why he's stuck. And then also, Austin Rivers is such an interesting case study because I, like everybody else, thought, Austin Rivers is a problem, like a locker room problem. His reputation preceded him. And from being here, I just feel like he's been such an interesting person. Like, I can't speak to his character because especially in the COVID year and how little I've been able to be in front of these guys face to face or just observing them. I really don't have a great read on what kind of person he is. But as far as interview, he's been so much more interesting than I expected. So Austin Rivers, really, really good. Next one I have on here is Bones Highland. This one's a funny one. We're just talking about surprises. When we did the draft, I looked at Bones Highland and thought, okay, I know what this guy is. He's a shooter. He's a gunner. He's kind of a one-on-one, might be a little bit of a ball hog. Don't know about his basketball IQ. Prospect wise, what's his upside? Maybe rotation piece, 6 man, whatever. He's just so much better in that. And he has some big question marks. Like, but Bones, we're starting as we get more of a sample size with him, we start to see the things. I don't think he has any like damning qualities where you're like, he just will never get to that point. I would just call him more question marks. Can he get strong enough? I don't know. We're going to find out if he can get strong enough. Is his 3-point shot sustainable on volume? Like, he likes to take a lot of them. He's been very hot or cold. I don't know if he's a great 3-point shooter, a good 3-point shooter, a streaky 3-point shooter. I don't know yet. And then the mid-range thing, I've talked about his slow shooting mechanics. That gives me a little bit of a question. But if you take the whole picture of what did I expect from Bol Bol and where is he, and what did I expect when they drafted him or during the draft, and what do I expect now? My expectations are so much higher. So for him, he definitely makes the list. And then the last one is the obvious one. Davon Reed. This is the recency bias one. This is why he comes in fourth, but he's a guy I did not know anything about. When I asked the guys at PHNX, because he was drafted by Phoenix, or he started his career in Phoenix. I don't remember if he was undrafted or drafted or second round or what. But I remember when I asked them, I said, hey, what do you guys think of him? Like, whatever. And they said, he is not an NBA player and never will be. Something like that, they said. And I'm like, well, that sucks. Okay, so they just got some guy. I think Davon Reed's an NBA player. I really do. I think he's an NBA player. I don't know about a great player or this or that, but I like him. And I especially like him with Jokic. So he's been a big surprise here. If I went the other direction and said, by the way, you guys in the chat can let me know who your biggest surprises are. I imagine most people say Aaron Gordon. Maybe you have somebody else that's surprising. JaMychal Green, biggest surprise in the negative direction. I mean, I honestly just don't think he's very good. I don't know what he brings. I mean, he brings something to the table that we don't see because teammates seem to really love him, Jokic in particular, and that goes a long way. But in terms of like his 3-point shot, it's been terrible. His defense has not been very impactful. He seems to be, just losing a little bit. And so biggest disappointment, it's easily him. He's making $9 million a year, which is just a lot of money for a guy that to me is maybe outside your top 10 in the rotation. PJ Dozier was another one. This one's tough because he got hurt. So I'm not trying to penalize him for being hurt, although the fact that he is not, won't play with this team this year is obviously very disappointing. But even prior to that, he was a little bit surprising. I just expected him to be better. And I really think that second unit was poorly put together, and he suffered as much from that as anyone. But nonetheless, you guys, if you watch the DNVR Nuggets preview series with PJ Dozier, I was just so high on him. And even before the injury, he was disappointing me there. And then lastly, Bol Bol. I mean, I think coming into the year 2021, I probably already didn't have expectations, just hearing too many things. But it's actually been worse somehow than all of that because now you got this contract that, that's just not working out. Let's see. What do we have here? I got some questions coming in. Adam, did they stop implementing the new rules? I see guys like Joel and Harden are back to their old antics, and Curry literally jumped into a defender to draw 3 free throws. No, what I would say is that this is a spectrum, right? If we talk about jumping sideways and some of the other rules that they've talked about, it's a spectrum. there's the egregious, I jumped forward, I kicked my leg out, I jumped sideways, I jumped backwards to draw a foul. And then there's the I perfectly went up and down, no foul because I'm in my own space. And then there's spots in between, did I lean to the side, jumped up straight up and down, but I leaned a little bit to the side. I feel like that gray area fluctuates. Some guys still get, like Chris Paul, I feel like still gets an abnormal amount of those 50-50 calls. Steph Curry gets them from time to time as well. But I think you are seeing way less. In fact, I would say almost completely eliminated those other shots, the real egregious ones. So much so that I think guys are trying them less. In fact, I don't really see guys trying the egregious ones at all anymore, other than on rare occasions. So to me, the rules have worked. I do think there is, with any new rule, you can over correct, and the NBA is not doing that. You could have overcorrected and just allowed too much contact. I think they've corrected a healthy amount that has sort of leveled the playing field. There's still some other rules that I think, that I think go into it. Somebody says forgot MPJ. So here's the thing, when I talk about disappointments, PJ Dozier got hurt. I try to put that aside. I'm not trying to judge the fact that he got hurt and factor that into the equation. Before he got hurt, he was healthy and he did not play very well. Michael Porter was hurt in the preseason, I'm told, was hurt in the preseason. So Michael Porter actually never had a point where he disappointed when he was healthy. It's disappointing that he got hurt, no question. Especially a back and having to have another back surgery. There's no question that is disappointing or surprising in the worst ways. But I can't. The question, first of all, was, outside of injuries. But second of all, even if it was including injuries, am I disappointed in Jamal? Did Jamal have a disappointing 2021 because he got hurt? I just don't think it makes sense to sort of analyze it that way. That's why I don't put him there. Rivers contributing in the playoffs in his Game 5 Portland was insane for a guy off the street. It's so true. He started. It's just crazy to think, but he started in the playoffs in a series the Nuggets won, going up against and in his prime Damian Lillard. You got to give him some. I know we have a tendency to do it's Jokic and a bunch of guys, just guys or whatever. And look, there's a lot of truth to that. Jokic is he elevates everyone, but you don't have to take away from what guys like Austin Rivers did. Here's a question. Jeff Morton says, I think Matt is experiencing karma for making fun of my advanced years. It's so true. It's so true. He cracked a joke about you being old, Jeff, and then his internet completely crapped out. Go figure. A question for Matt. Well, he's not here, so we can't go to that one. Let's go to the next question I have on here. Let's see. If our roster, this comes from Michael Shields, if our playoff roster is Jamal at 80%, Jokic at 95%, Barton at 90%, Aaron Gordon at 95%, Uncle Jeff at 95%, Monte Morris at 95%, last year's version of JaMychal Green, and Facu at 100%. First of all, what I love about this question is everybody's at 95%, which I respect. That's end of year. Nobody's at 100%, but, relatively healthy, just a little tired. Except for Facu, who we just assume never gets tired or anything. He's at 100%. And then Bones and Reed as needed. How far does this roster go? So let's just, to reiterate, Jamal at 80%. Everybody else, regular wear and tear. Jokic, Aaron Gordon, Will Barton, Jeff Green, Monte Morris, J. Mike, Facu, Bones, and Reed. It's a good question. Look, it depends on the matchups a lot. And 80% of Jamal Murray, it's hard. What does that look like? It's so hard to think about what is a realistic expectation of Jamal. We saw today that yesterday, Steve Kerr came out and said, when Klay Thompson comes back, he's our starter. We're not going to mess with this, bring him off the bench for a while, play him these minutes. He's starter. We're just going to go right into that. They have the luxury of Klay Thompson is probably back in the next month. So they're going to have basically half a season to work through all of their little, rhythm and everything else. Nuggets won't have that. I'm not going to lie. I have thought a lot about what would it look like if Jamal Murray just came back and came off the bench. If he comes back, if Malone is to be trusted on this and Jamal Murray is coming back, don't expect January, don't expect February. Okay, well, we all say March 1st because we're all optimists. We think, okay, not January, February. Clearly, he means the very first hour of March is when he's cleared. But let's just assume for a second that he comes back on March 10th, okay? And there is exactly 4 weeks before the season ends. And we know that the Nuggets play every other day with a couple back-to-backs sprinkled in there, and they're going to have some makeup games, so they're probably even more back-to-backs. So let's say over the course of 30 days, Jamal Murray is able to play 10 games because you don't want to overextend him, right? You want to provide some rest built into that. He plays 10 games. Is that enough for you? I mean, we've already seen how even positive implementation, you bring Michael Porter up or, whatever, Aaron Gordon, whatever, you bring somebody in, especially a player as loud as Jamal Murray, like loud, meaning you change your whole style to accommodate him. You do that, to me, I don't know that 10 games is enough to say like, okay, we went from point A to point B. It might make more sense for Denver to bring him off of the bench, at least initially, and say, let's play it by ear, but also with the understanding of, hey, this year Jamal might be a bench guy. It doesn't mean he's not going to play 30 minutes a game, but it does mean we're not going to disrupt this rotation we've built in. And that rotation has the starters playing 5 or 6 minutes to start the game with Monte Morris at the helm. They might do that. I don't know that they will. I would predict they don't, but I would not be surprised. And also it has crossed my mind that maybe that's the right answer. You go down the list and you talk about, the rest of the guys that are there. Aaron Gordon being healthy is huge. Jeff Green, Will Barton. Will Barton is the big one. You said Will Barton at 90%. So he's the one guy that was below the 95%. Right now, I think Will Barton's at like 70%. So this is a better version of Will Barton than what you're getting. I don't think they're better than the Phoenix Suns. I don't think they're better than the Golden State Warriors, although that matchup is interesting, but still I don't think they're as good as them. And people are going to hate me for saying this. I don't think they're good as the Utah Jazz. How did Denver beat the Utah Jazz in the playoffs 2 years ago in the bubble? Jamal Murray went absolutely off. And part of this is it's the Murray, Jokic, yin and yang, the way they pull teams in two different directions. And Utah in particular has a great rim protector in Rudy Gobert. Denver has a great big man in Jokic. You put Gobert on Jokic, okay, that's tough for Rudy Gobert, but he's a good rim protector. He's good inside, makes it difficult. When you add that pick and roll element, now all of a sudden Gobert has to extend out. Now the thing that you're so great at, now you become weakened at it because you draw Gobert out to have to guard the pick and roll. If you switch or you're late rolling back, now you have the best scorer off the roll in the game in Jokic in there. So now you sort of cap them at the knees because you have this dual threat. My fear is if Murray is not at 100%, which we don't expect he will be, how much can you put them in a bind with that two-man game? I'm not so sure. The margins are so thin. Like as much as I think a fully healthy Denver team is better than a fully healthy Utah Jazz, even if you said you have Michael Porter and Jamal Murray or this or that, at best, I would say that's a 6-game series for the Nuggets' favor. At best, it's not a sweep. The Nuggets aren't going to sweep a team like the Utah Jazz. They're really good. 538 gives them the second best odds of anybody in the NBA of winning. So if you have anything less, you're not going to have Michael Porter. Already you're thinking 80% Murray. I don't think they beat the Utah Jazz. Again, it just tilts the margins in there in Utah's favor, and Utah's a really good team. Past that, the team that I think might be a little bit of a sleeping giant out west, I think the Clippers are better than people realize. I know that's crazy because they're a team that, like the Lakers, their season just doesn't. It's funny. Clippers and Lakers basically the same record. And I look at the Lakers and I'm like, oh, they're flawed. They're this or that. Like, are they really good? And I look at the Clippers and I'm like, oh man, sleeping giant here. But they've just not. They're not concerned with their seed right now. I think they have a phenomenal coach, one of the best in the business. They've already shown that they can do things to like really stunt on Jokic and ugly up the game. Murray will obviously help alleviate that. Aaron Gordon will help alleviate that. They'll do some of these things. But I think they're a really good team. And again, Denver fully healthy, love that matchup. I actually think it's a really good matchup for Denver, but in large part because of what you're able to do with Jokic and Murray. Without that combination, I'm not so sure. So that would be another one I would say 50-50. Lakers, I think Nuggets are better. I have to see the Lakers. LeBron is really good, and I would hate to see him in a playoffs, but I don't buy them. And then Memphis is a team I think is getting disrespected, but for some reason, I still trust Denver against Memphis in that one. So to me, Utah, Phoenix, Warriors, and then the Clippers are that 50-50 team. Terrence Mann is really good. Is there anything besides, this comes from Miroslav, anything besides fatigue causing Jokic to shoot 12.5% from three in fourth quarters this season? It's a great question. The wrist injury could be part of it. I definitely think fatigue is, but look, I think I've said this for years. Jokic's 3-point numbers have gone up when he's been in the best shape of his career. He's in great shape now, but so much more is being asked of him that I think that he is just fatigued. And then the last thing I'll say is, again, this is that dance between Murray and Jokic that makes it a catch-22 for teams. When you take that out, we're seeing this across not just his 3-point shooting, but everything. Teams are loading up on Jokic right now. It used to be force him to score. That's how you beat him. Like, don't come off, don't get beat backdoor and stick tight to shooters and make Jokic beat you one-on-one. I think with Murray being out, Michael Porter being out, even Aaron Gordon being out, the script is flipped a little bit, and it's like make him pass because nobody else can score. And I think that probably is, we talk about his 3-point shot, that's probably some of it. Teams just extend a little bit. And then I would say lastly, a part of this is Denver's behind now. Instead of being up in fourth quarters, you're playing behind a lot, or you're playing with like leads that are losing or that are going away. And I think you just have to like press a little bit more. So I think he's pressing a little bit more than before. So we'll see. The other thing is probably small sample size. Fourth quarter threes, I'm guessing there's probably been 20 taken, maybe 25, 30. So you make 5 in a row, all of a sudden that 12% goes up a little bit to 20%. So maybe that's it. Somebody asked, Ball Does Lie ask, has Bones had COVID twice in a month? Remember that you enter health and safety protocols for 2 reasons. One is you were unvaxxed but came into contact with somebody, and I believe that's what happened to him the first time around. I don't know. I think this had been set out there somewhere, but I believe he was in the process of being vaccinated, but not through the incubation period when he was exposed. This was the same time Austin Rivers went in, so he was probably just exposed to Austin Rivers, who tested positive, so he had to enter the protocol. I'm guessing now, assuming he has been fully vaxxed, which I don't think has been reported anywhere, but I'm under that impression, I'm under that understanding. I'm guessing he just got COVID this time. So unlucky break for him to have gotten vaccinated and then gotten it almost shortly afterwards. But that's part of what's going on right now with this Omicron variant, that it is just so good at breaking through the vaccines that we have available to us at the moment. So it sounds like that's more or less what has happened. Any other questions I got in the chat here? Just trying to get one last in. We were expecting a better whistle for Jokic following his MVP season, but that doesn't seem to be the case. In fact, there have been multiple instances of a whistle going against him in the last 2-minute report. That part's true. Look, I put this out on Twitter the other day. People don't want to hear this. Jokic is really hard to officiate. I'm not trying to give an excuse to officials here. He's the MVP. If anything can make officials sort of evaluate their own biases, it is like a guy being an MVP, we saw this with Shaq, like when Shaq was in the league, or LeBron, any of these guys. LeBron, I know people are going to roll their eyes. Early on in his career, LeBron got a bad whistle. And at times, even now, he gets a bad whistle. He still gets the superstar calls, the ticky-tack ones. But he is such a big body that there were times early in his career where he would barrel through the lane. You would see some other like smaller player just get physical with him, and they wouldn't call it because it's like, you're bigger than him, so he can get physical with you. Referees have obviously adjusted, and guys like LeBron get a lot of the like ridiculous superstar calls where you swing the ball through and somebody grazes your shoulder and they're like, hey, that's a foul or whatever. Like LeBron gets those. I think with Jokic, he's really tough to officiate because he's so strong. He's so big. His moves are so unique, and his game is predicated on touch. Most big guys, if they do an up and under move, or if they just do like a drop step move, you drop step and you go up with the anticipation that you're going to go get hit. You go towards the basket and you go trying to go through the contact to dunk it on somebody's head. 90% of post players, that's what they do with their post moves. Or if you get to a jump hook, you'll just avoid the contact altogether. Jokic is really crafty. He does a drop step, goes up strong, but he's actually trying to go away from contact. So when a guy leans on him or creates this little bit of contact, it's different than if you did that same contact, but a guy was going to the rim. So I think officials just have not adjusted to the fact that this is a finesse player, a 6-foot jump hook. If you hit a guy on the arm like this, it's going to turn a swish into an air ball. And referees, for whatever reason, just are not used to it. So I think that that's part of it. But at the same time, he's the MVP. I know for a fact that the Nuggets have presented their case to the officials and said, hey, look at all of these things. It happens routinely. Why isn't he getting the calls? And, the officials have, in my opinion, are still behind on what they should be doing. I mean, that spin move to win the game or to seal the game, Nuggets up 2 with a couple seconds left, and Jokic airballs. You slow it down. I think there were 3. I actually was mad the last 2-minute report only said there was 1 foul. And it was actually after what I thought was the worst foul. They said that he hit him on the wrist on the release. Jokic airballs a layup. I thought there was a foul initially. In fact, I know there was a foul initially because you could see him grab Jokic's jersey from behind. That one, it's hard to see. It's hard to see. If you're a clever defender, you get close, you grab the jersey, like referees, they don't see it. It's the last play of the game. You think they're going to see it, but whatever. They didn't see it. I'll roll my eyes at that one. Then he spins, and you have Looney put his arm all the way around Jokic, grab him like this as he's spinning, and throw him off balance. To me, that's the one that I look at and I go, look, man, how do you just not call that one? So I do feel like he still gets a little bit of a frustrating whistle. But the one thing I will say, this does not come out in the wash. This does not come out in the wash. Jokic gets a favorable whistle on some of my least favorite fouls that he draws. Going through the lane and a guy puts a shoulder into him like this and checks him, Jokic will flop all the way back. Jokic gets a lot of those. Like he tries to make a cut and he'll go in, like he'll put his arm under another player's arm and grab it and then push up. And referees will call that sometimes. To me, like if Chris Paul did that, I would be so mad. I'd be so irate that he basically forced a guy to put his arm in there and then shows the official. So Jokic gets a few of those. And I do wonder if because he gets those, officials don't trust him on the actual calls. I don't know. A lot of spins, a lot of little things like that. So that's my read on it. But nonetheless, he's the MVP and he still doesn't get that kind of respect. It's a little crazy. What do you guys think of, before we get out of here, what do you guys think of some of the, if we look back on 2021, what were some of the best moments, best memories you had? I mean, for me, the easy answer here is, Jokic winning the MVP was really cool. The discourse around it on like Twitter, I know most people aren't on Twitter, so maybe this is unfamiliar, but the discourse around it is annoying. Nick Wright saying he's the worst MVP in 30 years or whatever. Like that stuff is annoying to me, but you block all that out and just think, here's a guy that is the best story in the NBA, in my opinion. Second round pick. Nobody knew who he was. Has come all of the ranks. Every year was said, hey, he's not as good as this guy. He's not as good as this guy. Then to last year win the MVP award. I mean, you just don't get stories that good in any sport. As such a Rudy story, as such an underdog story. So, that's the top of the list. The other one would be that I know this is silly because of how quickly it all came crashing down, but the Smuggets era, the era right after the trade deadline when the Nuggets had Aaron Gordon and they went on that run, smacking teams, just looking so great. That was, I mean, I honestly believe the Nuggets were the best team in the NBA. For about 1 week, the Nuggets were the best team in the NBA. And I was like, for the first time, I've long said I don't think the Nuggets will ever win a championship. I feel like the institution of the NBA is so broken that for a team to win like the Nuggets, it would take like miracles to happen. But for a brief moment in time, about 1 week, I was like, you know what? I think I'm wrong. I think the Denver Nuggets are going to win a championship. And I thought it was going to be last year. But even if it wasn't last year, I thought it would for sure be this year. And then, of course, it all came crashing down. The Smuggets era, that was so fun. Looking ahead to 2022, I wanted to do this really quickly. 2022, this season is still, the Nuggets are in purgatory. I don't know what to make of it. Can they win the championship this year? They can. I don't think they will. I think that, and it's tough. That's a tough pill to swallow, but maybe. But we look ahead to 2022. What lies ahead for us here? Well, the Nuggets, will go into another draft, probably find an interesting player. You get Michael Porter back. We'll probably get some reports on that. We're going to get to see Jamal Murray again. We've gone almost a whole calendar year without it. At some point early on here in this year, we're going to see Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic play again. We're going to see a playoff run and see how that turns out. But then most importantly, it's hard because it's so far away. But if you could just put your mind to September/October 2022, the start of next season, Jamal Murray comes back and plays a couple months. He gets an entire offseason to train and work hard. Michael Porter gets an entire offseason to train and bounce back. The excitement that will be building for the Denver Nuggets for the 2022 season is going to be pretty off the chain. It's going to be pretty exciting. And I know it's so far away and there's all these other things. I don't want us to all live in the future. Like I want to continue to guide us through this present era, good or bad or in between. But there is something as we look ahead in 2022. I do look ahead and I say, you know what? The hype around the start of next season is going to be pretty great for the Nuggets. And sometimes, as we saw with Game 82 in 2018, when the Nuggets lost and they had to sit on that loss for a whole offseason, they came back with a renewed hunger and a completely different team. I kind of think the next year is going to be similar to that. And when I say next year, 2022, when they come back for that next season, I have a feeling there's going to be hey, we might be two-time NBA champions right now if the world broke a little bit differently for us. But it didn't, and I think they're going to be a little bit hungry and say, this is our year. We now won't take for granted what opportunities you have in front of us. You never know when that door closes, and that alone is going to be really exciting. That does it, guys. Everybody, thanks so much for riding with me and Matt all through 2021. Don't forget to, as always, check out the DNVR Nuggets podcast as well. Another podcast that I host has a different tone than this one, although I think a little bit more variety as well. We do the post-game live shows right after instant reactions. Have a lot of fun with those. Also, off days, we do the list and a bunch of other things. So Thank you for consuming this podcast. Thank you for consuming all the stuff that Matt does over the Action Network. He is a true grinder, always busting out great articles and content on the NBA. You can check him out on Locked On NBA. I think it's Wednesdays. I'm Locked On NBA Fridays. In fact, just today I did the 5 biggest winners of 2021. Jokic is on the list. He's in the top 5, but he was not number 1. So you can check that podcast out as well. Be safe tonight, everybody, and I'll see you in 2022.